Hi guys, my name's Rich, and I converted my CNC Masters mill to run on Mach 3. So I figured I'd throw together a little video for those who might be thinking about doing it, or those who are curious about doing something similar. I managed to make it work out, so I figured I'd share. I like the original Master software that came with the CNC Masters, but once I started really looking into what Mach 3 could do, just as far as math and hole centering and some of the easy layouts for just doing basic pocketing and stuff like that, I thought, wow, that's really cool. I'd use my machine even more if I didn't have to go through the whole CAD CAM machine process. I could just do it here on the machine in the shop. You know, when something pops up on the bench over there, I can just put it in and in a few minutes just start cutting. So that's really the main reason why I wanted to do the switch. And I'm glad I did. So anyway, enough talking. Why don't I give you a tour? Okay, so here we are. Here's the mill. You guys probably know what that looks like. Here's the Mach 3 running on my Windows machine here. And here's the controller I built for it. And I put it in this clear box from McMaster Car, which I really like. A lot of how I'm controlling this is I've got the Ethernet smooth stepper board here. And in addition to that, running Arturo Duncan's C32 breakout board, and you can find his stuff at cnc4pc.com, and they're great. And Arturo was fabulous at helping me with the questions I had along the way. So those are some of the new parts, and kind of behind it is some of the original CNC Masters stuff, and I'll explain to you some of what's happening there. Just to finish talking about the case, I got a fan, a nice quiet fan, so I can leave this thing on all day and it's not excessively noisy. Power switch up top here and an e-stop up top here. I'm also running a pendant, so I have another. This is also from cnc4pc.com, and there's another e-stop here out on the machine. I really like the clear lid because the C32 breakout board gives me so much information. It tells me, you know, I can see here this is the status. It's talking to the computer nicely as I move different axes around. You know, you can see how it does step and direction commands and et cetera, et cetera. So it's really pretty cool. So this is the ESS, or the Ethernet Smooth Stepper. This is the breakout board, the C32. Behind here is the original CNC Masters power supply and drivers. Power supply is actually under there a little bit, underneath the board here, and I'm using half of it. I'm using the part that's sending basically the 60 volt supply to the drivers and to the steppers. That I found to be good. It also does produce 5 volts DC, but it doesn't have enough amps to keep the controller boards happy. So I ended up finding an old LaCie drive that had power supply that I had lying around, and I just butchered that, and it's actually riding underneath here. Kind of see it in there. And that's what's supplying 4 amps of nice solid 5 volt power for the logic. So that's the power. And this switch actually is a breaker too. So I've got some breaker action there. These are the original drivers that come with the CNC Masters. And these are the original cables, and all that stuff's pretty standard. What I did figure out is these are wired like Gecko drives. They're not Geckos, but they are just like the Gecko, I believe, 301 standard drivers. So I just configured them like that, and a flashlight. But I basically took the ribbon cable off of the original board under there and was able to solder. Let's see if I can get you guys a shot. Able to solder some of the wires back in there for control. So these orange ones here are my 3 servo axes, and they go basically around down to there. And I just did a little bit of metering to figure out the pinouts. Actually, kind of took all this apart, took the drivers off, did the metering, figured out what was going on. And I have the pinouts. I guess maybe I'll throw it up on YouTube here, or if anybody needs it, you can you know, send me a message, and I'll just email you the pins of what on the ribbon cable goes to what, and that includes power supply and step and direction for each axis, and enable and stuff like that. So it all actually works pretty darn good. The spindle's another thing. It comes out of here. And the good news about the CNC Masters is they use the Leeson spindle driver here. Yours is probably covered by a big black cap if it doesn't look like this. And Arturo at cnc4pc.com has a wiring diagram for this. So basically I just took a Cat 5 cable and cut the ends off it, stripped it, wired it up per Arturo's suggestions. Shot of it there. I gotta put some strain relief on it. I just got this thing working. I gotta detail the machine and pretty some of this up, but I wanted to do this before my brain forgot some of the details. And there are a bunch of menus and stuff with the buttons right over here, and you can go through and change some of the parameters. And the parameters that CNC Masters were using were pretty much the same as what I needed for the C32 board to control it, so that was not an issue there. I'll give you another tour here. So just kind of looking around the board as far as what you got to do. So I ran some 5-volt power in here from my power supply. This powers the Ethernet smooth stepper. And then over here, this is actually the power from the power supply coming in, and then it going out over here to the smooth stepper is what the extra wires are down here. In this neighborhood here, this is a relay that I'm using for my coolant pump, because I do use coolant. Right in here, this is the e-stop that's up on the machine. Down there, there. Okay, sorry about that. So these are actually the 3 axes, X, Y, and Z. And this 4th one is actually the enable for the steppers. If I come down here, these are actually my limit switches. Let me hit the Y limit. You can see that the breakout board tells you what's going on here. So there's me hitting the Y limit. And there's the Mach 3 with the wanting of a reset because we had the e-stop. Just reset that guy up. What else can I show you? Why don't I go ahead and show you? And of course this is the connection to the computer. And then there's some jumper settings for the pendant activation, but that's all on the pendant instructions from Arturo. So as far as looking at the mill here, the Y top of stroke, get you a shot of it, is right here. And I basically just took off the old system that the CNC Master guys had put on and just bolted on this new one here. Come on, big guy. Show what you got. So there it is. Come on, focus for me. Sorry, it's just an iPhone, but it's basically the old mount on the top of the quill there. Now the bottom is behind this plate, and to get the plate off, you got to pull these 2 handles off here. They have pins I go through. You got to remove the pins, remove the screws, plates come off, and there's basically an empty solid tube here. And I just drilled it, tapped it, put a plate on, put the limit switch on here so that as this indicator goes up and down, it falls down and hits my limit switch roller, which is just right in there. I think you can see that little shiny thing. That's the tip of it. Okay, so my Y limit switches, these I had done a while ago because as coolant would and chips would hit the original CNC Masters, where is it? This little button wire thingy here. I went to these because these handle chips and coolant better. And here's another one back here. So you can see as it rolls up, it hits that. And as far as the X left side, it's this plate right there, and underneath there, you know, it's got the finger and the roller up there. There's actually a cool thing right on the edge of this way here. It's even grooved, so the roller will come along and it'll roll on this, and that'll click into that little piece there. It's basically the same thing on the other side. As far as the bottom of the table, it's got this same nice little ramp conveniently here, but I didn't use it. Just on this side I put in another L piece bolted to the existing 10mm hole that was here, and there's just a switch here, so just when the plate of the motor mount gets close, it'll just hit the limit switch. And the limit switch is, this is the set from Arturo at CNC4PC.com. And I just basically used all those, with the exception that I wired it this way. And I would recommend going with his because the original Baron switches, of course, use a common ground for the whole machine, sort of like a car does, you know. So you wire the machine to ground to the controller, and then, you know, when your input signals gets connected to ground, and that tells the computer. But this is currently wired the opposite way, where running through these wires for the switches is a hot signal, and then when you break the hot signal, that's what sends the limit switch. So it's a little safer and more reliable. It's not looking for maybe a ground. But there you go. That's pretty much it. Works pretty good, and good luck out there. If you guys got any questions or thoughts, I'd love to hear them.